Hello everyone, I'm Mr. Eddie, President of America, and this is a special audio edition of Should I Tune In? I haven't done one of these in a while, but I figured I would do a quick little video giving my thoughts on Pixar's latest masterpiece, Inside Out. I mean, I'm kind of the animation guy on the website, so I might as well do it, right? So I'm going to start by giving general impressions of it, and when I get to the spoiler part, I'm going to give you a chance to click off. So I recently got a chance to go to my local theater and watch this movie. First off, I have to say, my theater recently upgraded, and it's awesome. It's wonderful. They have these huge, comfy leather recliners, so you can sit and watch the movie in actual comfort. You know what? Fuck 3D. The real gimmick to get me to go to a theater is to actually make it a comfortable experience. And you can fit two of me in these seats. This is wonderful. So, Inside Out. Since I've seen the trailers for this months and months ago, I've been dying to see this. So I saw it the first chance I could get, which wasn't quite opening night, but it was still, the first chance I could get to see it. So, admittedly, I'm a huge Pixar mark. I love their movies. They're always bright, they're fun, they're emotional, they're always creative. I pretty much love every Pixar movie that's made. And I know a lot of people are going to roll their eyes and say, what about cars and planes? And look, admittedly, they are on the low end of the Pixar scale. But you know what? The low end of the Pixar scale is still better than most other animation companies right now. Yeah, I mean, DreamWorks has gotten really good, and they've had a couple of really good home runs. But in general, let's face it, Pixar is like the cream of the crop. So even their bottom of the barrel stuff is still pretty good. It's like a straight-A student bringing home a B-. It's still a really good grade, but it's going to be heavily frowned upon because of who it's coming from. I guarantee you, if Blue Sky Studios had made cars or planes, everyone would trip over themselves saying how great these movies were and how it's nice that these studios finally stepped up. So, basically, what I'm saying is Pixar's worst are still fun, creative movies. And Inside Out keeps that trend alive because it's another wonderful, fun, creative movie. Just a heads up, this is not bottom of the barrel. This movie is awesome. Inside Out is probably the best Pixar movie, in my personal opinion, since Up. My own personal opinion, I know some people have said it's the best one since Toy Story 3. I think it's better than Toy Story 3. I'll get more into that why later. First, the general plot synopsis, in case you've been living under a rock and you have no idea what Inside Out is about. Inside Out follows the life of a young girl, Riley. He's just turned 11, and she's played excellently by Caitlin Diaz, by the way, who is actually a child actress. It's really nice to see the role of a child's voice go to an actual child instead of an adult, and it's actually a very capable actress at that. Her voice acting is really good in this. So, the movie is actually about her, but not focused on her. It's actually more to do with what's going on inside her head. Or to be more exact, the emotions inside her head. Or to be even more exact than that, the personification of emotions inside her head. Sorrow, disgust, anger, fear, and the head honcho, joy, all live as personifications of emotions inside Riley's head. You ever see Herman's Head? It was a show from the early 90s. If you haven't, don't worry, you're probably in the majority. But it was the same idea, but Inside Out does a much better job of exploring this idea. So these emotions live inside the head, and it's basically their job to control Riley. Joy makes her happy, sadness makes her sad, anger makes her angry, so on and so forth. Joy's basically the head honcho because with most children, happiness is the emotion that rules. So Joy makes sure everything is happy inside the head of young Riley, and she does a really good job of it. You see, Inside Out sets up this wonderfully ingenious premise about how every action that the emotions make inside Riley's head captures a memory inside a colored ball. These just are stored in long-term memory, but the really important memories become core memories. And those make up actual parts of Riley's personality. They make Riley Riley. So, since she has a really important family memory, one of her core important things that make Riley Riley is how she loves her family. There's also one for friends, her love of hockey, and her wackiness, which kind of makes her my kind of kid. So, all of them are yellow balls. Joy's work. They're all happy things. So, all goes well until one day Riley's family picks up and moves her from her home in Minnesota to California. This causes all sorts of turmoil inside Riley's head, as it would with most kids. And one thing leads to another, and it leads to an accident where one of the core memories gets touched by sadness and it's turned blue. This happy core memory is now a sad memory. This is shown in the real world about how Riley realizes how hard the move was, and how her hockey teammates and all her friends are thousands of miles away now. And then she starts to cry in her class. She goes from being happy to sad. What I really love about this is that it really is done so well. In another movie, it would be like a robot that just had a malfunction. It would be like, now I'm sad. But its change is so subtle, it's actually how it would work in the real world. because sometimes an emotion does catch up with you in the real world. So the subtlety of the scene is really good. So that just proves how well Pixar can write. So Joy tries to stop Sadness from messing around with any more of the memories, and an accident happened inside the headquarters, which is what they actually call the area inside the head, because Pixar is not above wonderful puns. I love them so much. So there's an accident, and all of Riley's core memories are lost, and all of her personality traits are lost. And along with being lost, so is Joy and Sadness. They get kicked out into the deeper recesses of Riley's mind. So, yeah, it's kind of like a kid's movie, but it's about having an existential crisis. I mean, leave that to Pixar. You know, one movie will be about who can win the race, and this one is discovering yourself. So basically, the plot of the movie is that the race is on for Joy and Sadness to get back to headquarters and restore the core memories and get Riley to feel like her old self again. I have to say it again, I really loved this movie. I loved every bit of this movie. Everything about this movie was fantastic. First off, the animation was gorgeous. While the characters in the real world looked like up to Pixar standards, I mean, Pixar is always beautiful. They make 3D animation. I wish all 3D art could look this good. I mean, there's so many shows on TV that go the cheap 3D CGI route, and it looks like plastic figures just bouncing into each other. Whereas Pixar makes all their stuff look like they have depth, and they're really there. I don't know what Pixar does other than just puts time and energy and art and skill into it, but they have the best CGI characters, like, ever. So while Riley and the real world looks really good, the emotions are fantastic. I can't explain it, but they almost look kind of fuzzy. It's this subtle effect where they're almost made out of felt, and little bits are flying off them ever so slightly. It's as if emotions were real, but they're made out of different material than what people are made out of. And it works really well. It's beautiful, it makes them look kind of cute, and it really does look well. It's a subtle effect that is just wonderful. Also, I saw this movie in 3D, and I will be the first to say, I think 3D is a cheap gimmick used to sell movies. I'm not a huge fan of it, but Pixar is always worth it. Pixar really does do a great job with 3D. They don't put a bunch of shit in your face to make it look 3D, so when you're at home, it's like, oh, I bet that was in 3D. No, everything they do is subtle, but beautiful. It just basically, all they do is just give the world depth. Every scene has depth to it. It's not distracting, it just makes it look better. My favorite use of the 3D in the movie were the memory orbs. Whenever one of the characters were holding the memory orbs and it would move, there would be a 3D effect inside the ball while being outside of the scene in a 3D effect. I can't describe it. It's like something that had depth that was being held by someone standing in a world that had depth. Kind of like depthception. I don't know. Whatever. Secondly, you have to talk about characters. The characters were all likable. These were all great characters. Riley came off like a real kid, and it looked like she was part of a real family. They all acted kind of real. She acted like a regular 11-year-old girl, which, you know, you'd think big deal. There's lots of regular 11-year-old girls. But somehow they're never portrayed well in movies. Kids are never portrayed realistic in movies. This one gets it right. I mean, she's wacky. She's not perfect. She's silly. She's competitive. She's a real kid. I mean, the stars of the movie, though, were the emotions. The emotions were fantastic. Every voice actor hit their role 100%. All 5 of the emotions were fantastic. I can't even pick a favorite. Although, if you twisted my arm, it might be Lewis Black, because I love Lewis Black. Lewis Black was fantastic as Anger, and if you've ever seen a stand-up, he's perfect for the part. Mindy Kaling played the role of Disgust perfect. I mean, she was caring, yet her role was to just be disgusted at things. And in theory, keep Riley safe. That's why she doesn't like broccoli, because broccoli is disgusting. It must be poisonous. We have to keep her safe. Fear, just wonderfully neurotic and highly energetic, played by Phil Hader. He was fantastic. Phyllis Smith as Sadness was just so wonderfully down. You wanted to hug her. And Joy as the main character was likable and bubbly, and she was just awesome in the role as well. You really kind of believed that all these characters were personifications of the emotions they were playing, yet they still seemed like characters outside of that one-note joke. It's subtle, but it's good. I mean, Anger was still angry, but he still had moments where he was just not rage. I mean, it was super well done. Now we come to the plot, and the plot was fantastic. Everything about this movie was fantastic, but now I'm going to have to start tiptoeing into spoiler territory. So I'm going to give you a chance to click off now. But before you click off, let me just say right now, yes, you should totally tune into this movie. The question is always, should I tune in? Yes. It was different, it was smart, it was emotional, it was funny. It's everything you'd want out of a Pixar movie. Go see it. Go see it if you haven't seen it. Don't listen to the spoilers, go now. I'll wait a few seconds and give you a chance to go. You still there? Alright, good. Okay, so this plot is nothing short of amazing. And it's not like it's this huge epic story that makes it amazing. What makes it amazing is how much like a non-traditional plot this really is. First of all, there's no villain. I really racked my brain trying to think of who the villain in this movie is, and there isn't one. There's no set twirling mustache bad guy in this. In fact, midway through the movie, you come across Riley's imaginary friend, Bing Bong. He's kind of a half-elephant, half-cotton candy thing, and from the beginning he's kind of hiding from them, and I kind of thought that maybe he was going to turn out to be the bad guy, because he's forgotten, Riley really doesn't need an imaginary friend anymore, so maybe he's going to turn out to be the bad guy. But no, he's just a really good friend that loves Riley and cares about her. In fact, he's not the bad guy, he's the gut-wrenching sad moment of the movie. If you saw the movie, you know that poor Bing Bong does not make it to the end. He falls into, like, the, I think they call it the subconscious, where memories just disappear forever. And so he sacrifices himself so Joy can escape, and you see him waving and disappearing, and it's pretty freaking sad. It's not quite up levels of sadness, but nothing is, thank God, because I don't think I could sit through another up level of sadness ever again in my life. But it's still emotional. It's still very well done. So, yeah, there's no villain in this movie. I guess the only real villains in the movie is the idea of time and change. And we all know, if you're old enough listening to this, time and change can be real bastards. You see, Pixar took a different approach with this movie to your typical Disney movie. I mean, it's not your usual movie. The typical Disney movie is that happiness is always the key. You have to stay positive. You have to wish upon a star. You have to give a little whistle. Don't give up. Zippity-doo-dah. At the end of the movie, the goal is always happiness. Inside Out doesn't do that. In fact, it blatantly forgoes that trope 100%. You see, throughout the movie, Joy is trying to keep sadness from messing with the control panel. She's trying to keep her away from corrupting the memories and making them sad, so on and so forth. Joy wants to do what Joy was made to do. She wants to keep Riley happy. And, in most movies, that would be the main goal. That's the thing. Keep sadness away. You have to be happy. Happiness is the key. But again, if you live in the real world like I do, that's not the way it works. You can't only have happiness in life. It just doesn't work. There's going to be sadness in your life. It's a real part of you. I don't want you to be depressed listening to this, but I'm sure more than one of you listening to this, right? I bet all of you have a sad memory locked away in your head. And that memory makes you you. The difficulties that you face in life, as much as the joys in your life, define who you are. You can't just be happy. Without happiness, there's no sadness. And without sadness, there's no happiness. They go hand in hand. So, that's kind of what the story of this is. The example of this in the movie is that there's an old memory of Riley's where she missed the winning goal at the championship game. And Joy always sees it as this wonderful moment where all her friends lift her up on their shoulder and Mom and Dad's hugging her, and it's a bright yellow memory. It's a happy memory. But if you rewind the memory back to the beginning, she's very sad. She's upset that she missed this goal. She lost it for the team. She's saddened herself. And the memory's blue. It's a sad memory. And it's not until family and friends come and cheer her up that the sad memory becomes happy. Because you see, sadness is the chance to let you get it out. How can I put this? It's not until sadness gives you the... Let me try that again. The memory is both happy and sad. Sadness gives us that outlet for our pain. You can't just lock it away. And not only does it give you an outlet for the pain, it gives others a chance to help you with that pain. Nothing else, it gives you closure. In fact, the end of the movie, it's not until sadness is given a chance at the controls that she's able to help Riley overcome the loss of her old home and that huge change in her life. She breaks down into tears, her family comforts her. And this actually sets up a new core memory, and is born out of both sadness and joy. So how's that for a summer blockbuster kids movie? That's not your typical movie that you're going to sit down and on a hot summer day and watch this with your kids. It's heavy stuff, but it's real world stuff, and it's masterfully done, it's tastefully done, and it's done way better than I can explain it. So basically, if I haven't made it clear yet, I love this movie. It's a fantastic movie. 2 thumbs up, A+, 10 out of 10. You really should go see this. If you're any kind of animated movie fan, you should see it. If you're any kind of movie fan, you probably should see it. I mean, once again, Pixar has made a movie that has more emotional impact and more emotional depth than most of the trumped-up Oscar baits that come out just to get a nomination on a yearly basis. But I guess that's a rant for our boys over at Force Perspective. By the way, speaking of Force Perspective, our movie podcast, did you know I guest starred in the last episode? We did a running commentary of the classic popcorn film Independence Day. So down below in the description, you'll see a link to click on so you can go listen to that. Well, until next time, I'm Mr. Eddie. I hope you enjoyed this, and to answer the question, should I tune in? If you haven't figured it out now, yes!